Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Revelations, a Korean dramatic thriller from 2025 that was directed by Yeon Sang-ho. Now this is the man who gave us Train to Busan, and then, unfortunately, Psychokinesis, Peninsula, and Hellbound. But he did recover recently with Parasite the Grey and Jung-E. So where does Revelations sit on his extremely inconsistent resume? Well, let's find out. The following plot synopsis was taken from the website Asian Movie Pulse. First we meet the pastor, Min Chan, played by Ru Jun-yeol, a devout man of faith who has to face a double trouble in his earthly life. He has to deal with his wife's infidelity, and also with the threat of a mega church being built in his area of work by his former mentor's son. When his encounter with a recently released sex offender, Kwan, coincides with his son going missing for a while, he sets on catching and punishing him. Min Chan is sure that Kwan is guilty of something, and has religious visions as a proof of this. On the other hand, Kwan is also pursued by a police detective, Yeon-hee, who also has a score to settle with him. Namely, he abducted her sister in the past, so the detective wants to bring him to justice. So this had some promise, this movie. We've got multiple characters coming for this evil dude, and it's set up to be kind of this entertaining thriller. Unfortunately, it is not, okay? The first problem I have with this is the pacing, which is just awful. This is one of those movies that had me fidgeting in my seat for the entire first half because I just wanted something entertaining to happen or just something interesting. But the story felt like it was stuck in quicksand, is how I would describe it, with very little dramatic impact or progression of events, especially during the opening half. And it also lacks that one moment that can lock you in as a viewer and convinces you to truly engage with the story and the characters. It had multiple opportunities to accomplish this, but I think it failed to do so. In fact, the first half of this movie almost feels like episode 1 of a 16-episode television show. Like, so little was progressed during that section of the film. It's just very boring to watch. We get a lot of very basic, dry conversations and dialogue. It's pretty cliche, not really very insightful. I think this director's exploration of religion is very surface level. I'm pretty sure I made that criticism in the past when I reviewed Hellbound. That show was more obnoxious than this film, but, my request for this type of thing is, can the director or writer give me some nugget of wisdom at some point, regardless of their perspective, instead of just shallow monologues? We get a lot of just shallow dialogue in this. I don't think this guy is capable of doing this. Now, the character development is also unimpressive. The sex offender gets zero color, no personality. The pastor's wife only exists to cheat on her husband, so I didn't really care about that. There's a pretty good confrontation, though, between the lady detective and a psychologist who testified in the bad guy's favor in the past. That was a pretty good exchange, but even that scene is nothing that memorable. Now, we do see some glimpses of some interesting interaction near the midpoint and into the second half. And this is because the pastor is basically shown as being just as much of a nutcase as the sex offender, probably even more so. So it's almost like watching two broken people in a possible deadly confrontation. So even so, there are very few memorable set pieces that bring this potential into actuality. In the second half, there are a few good moments, though. It is better than the first half. There's a pretty good fight in an abandoned building that's presented as one continuous camera shot. Probably the best scene in the film, but even that one's not that great. There's also an attempt at suspense near the end, involving a girl in an abandoned building. But you can easily predict what's going to happen, which leaves the finale feeling kind of contrived, improbable, and unsatisfying. I mean, the acting is good in this movie. I can't really blame the actors for this one. And there is one really cool shot of like an angelic cloud in the sky. I was like, man, like when that happened, it's I think near the midpoint at some point. I was like, wow, they should have had more stuff like that. That's more like striking visually, at least. Could have kept you in it, but yeah, needless to say, I do not recommend Revelations. It's another step back for this director after he was beginning to build a decent streak of entertaining projects again. But this director is simply inconsistent. But if you want to check it out, if the premise interests you and you want to give it a shot, it is currently available on Netflix. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.